Hey everybody, welcome back to Yankees the Cop. We're here tonight for our big Premier League special, the Liverpool-Man City game, to preview it. Tonight I'm joined by two special guests. First of all, Tim representing Man City. How are you doing, Tim?
I'm great, thank you, Holmes. Nice to be back. Thank you for the invitation. Always good to preview a big game.
Always good to have you on. For the first time ever, we've got Sebastian, also known as Tino, representing Liverpool. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing very well. Looking forward to the game. Looking forward to this preview. Certainly going to be a tough game for both sides, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Good to see you, Alan, mate. Always good to see you in the chat. All right, so we're going to dive straight into it. This is obviously a big match earlier on in the season, and like both teams have had good starts to the season. So looking at City, obviously in the summer, obviously you weren't shy in the transfer market in terms of bringing players in. So I think most people thought City were going to go in needing a striker and a midfielder. You just end up with obviously splashing big money on Grealish, 100 million. How did you find the window? Did you feel that you did everything you wanted in the window, or were you still left thinking, "Oh, we should have gotten Kane or another striker"?
I think that's a great question. I mean, it's probably easy from the outside of any given club when there's a great media hysteria during a transfer window and leading up to the transfer window. It was a slightly unusual transfer window from the inside looking out, in the sense that everybody knew who we were after. Our perfect window would have been Grealish and Kane. Turns out we signed one, and obviously poor old Harry Kane is imprisoned at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and who knows when he will be released. I think it's important sometimes to step back from the media hysteria about things. I think City fans were probably a bit divided about Kane anyway. There was about a 50-50 view. Some people were all agog, and some people thought that he wasn't all that. It sounds like the second point of view is starting to be proved a bit right. He's a good player, of course, and a coach like Guardiola wouldn't want to sign him if he didn't think he was great. But I believe the way that we're playing is probably vindicating the Grealish approach. Grealish gives us that little bit extra, and we'll talk about Grealish in a minute. We wanted two, we got one. No crisis, no Kane, no striker. We can still score plenty of goals. I think it actually suits our style of play, if I'm honest, not to have a striker. It would have been a modification, an evolution perhaps, to have a proper striker. But I actually think we play quite well without a striker as it is. So no Kane, no crisis.
Yeah, I think going on to that, like you've had a good start of the season. You've won 4 out of 6 wins. And obviously you started off with you lost to Spurs, but then you bounced back, beating Arsenal. You come away just now with a big win against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, where you dominate the game, and I think you exposed Chelsea. So yeah, how you feel about your start, like overall?
In many ways, this first 6 games of the season feels a little bit like our first 3 months of last season, where we've started in a frankly weird way by losing to Spurs. How did we manage to lose Spurs? They're terrible. Anyway, we managed to do it. We then have subsequently got back on the horse and started to play, gradually getting back into the pattern of play that we're reasonably familiar with, the majority of the players. And obviously the results have reflected that, with the exception of this blip against Southampton, where every time City score or miss chances or fail to score or score not as many as we should have done, there's always an automatic chorus of City need a striker. It's the most unoriginal observation in the history of the universe. But it's encouraging in this week of all weeks, away to Chelsea, away to PSG, away to Liverpool. Hey, can't wait till the fixture list gets properly tough. I'm getting bored of all these easy fixtures. I think we are playing well. It's more important, I think, to go to Paris and play well than necessarily to go to Paris and come away with the result. We all know how sort of untense the group stage of the Champions League is. People talk about groups of death and so on and so forth. And even after that little team from Transnistria have put 2 wins together, you still don't feel like Real Madrid are going out of the group, because they'll probably find a way. So of all of these fixtures this particular week, to be less concerned about a poor outcome whilst a good performance, you could probably treat the PSG game as a bit of a free hit. I'm happy to have played so well against Chelsea and to win. And then Sunday, who knows? As long as we play well, I'll be pretty satisfied, but we'll talk about other things in a while. I think I am happy with the start, in simple answer to your simple question. I'll be even happier if we come away with a positive result on Sunday.
Do you not think, can I interject slightly here? Do you not think out of those 3 games, I think Liverpool is the biggest game? Because for me, whoever wins this game coming up potentially wins the league.
I see that, and I'd love to accept your premise that the winner of this game wins the league. It's probably a teensy bit early for that, but I accept, of course, it's always a big fixture. But frankly, it's perfectly possible for either team to win the league, even if they get beat 5-0 in this fixture. Which, of course, I'm very much looking forward to predicting at the end of the discussion.
So going on, I just want to talk about.
I should add. Yeah. I just wanted to add one thing to that limb of the discussion, Holmes and Tino, and that's this. When you talk about what makes me happy about our start, a lot of the time it's very common, I think, to look at City as this possession-based team, silky moves, lots of lovely precision play, and to focus very much upon how many goals we score, or if we score goals, or if we're missing chances, and so on. But I think it's actually just as positive from the City point of view to witness what we all thought when we signed Ruben Diaz last year. We all thought the strong centre-half partnership was going to be with Laporte. And of course, last season, Stones played so well whilst Laporte was out injured that Stones and Diaz became the strong centre-back partnership. Now the roles have been reversed. And we are seeing, with the possible exception of failing to block Lionel Messi from his 1-2 brilliant finish into the top corner at in Paris, we're starting to see the emergence of what we all thought we were going to get last season, which is a very strong central partnership between Laporte and Diaz. That makes me happy.
Yeah, obviously, I think we really can see 1 goal so for having you in the league as well. So
that's right. I think we're the top defence in the league so far, but it's early days, Tina. Let's not get overexcited about that.
So I just wanted to go about Grealish. So, how's he fitted in? How's he improved City? Because I know after the PSG game, I saw quite a few people criticising him, saying that he didn't have the best of games against PSG. I didn't see him game. But how's he done overall for you? Has he been worth 100 million for you?
Yeah, let's just. I'll just deal with the point. Grealish and pretty much everybody played very well against PSG. Okay, I appreciate that social media can't really cope with the concept of a team playing well but losing, or a player failing to score or assist and somehow not being the greatest of all time, etc., etc. It's quite a sterile position, isn't it, in this regard? As far as Grealish is concerned, maybe the PSG game wasn't his absolute best game in a City shirt. That's probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 of the previous games. But the thing about Grealish is he's played an awful lot. He came off the summer transfer window, unlike some of his England international colleagues and other international players, straight pretty much back into playing. He was match fit and ready to go. And Guardiola was clearly keen to play him, I assume, because he wanted to get Grealish into the pattern of play and understand his new role in the side. So I would say that as far as Grealish is concerned, number 1, we've seen a lot of him. Number 2, he started in his first few games quite tentatively, being very conservative in possession, not going for the jugular, not trying to kill the fullback on every possession. As I think we became used to seeing him being like that for Villa. But gradually he has been eased into a position where he's a bit more aggressive now. And there's a nice little partnership, which I'm going to talk about in a bit more detail later, Holmes, developing at the moment between himself and João Cancelo down City's left. And yeah, I'm reasonably happy with him. He hasn't been scoring braces and assisting 3 and 4 times, but I don't think the way in which he's deployed in the City team, he would necessarily do that. I think we're still quite beholden to the skills of De Bruyne. I think De Bruyne is often still the focal point, directing traffic, etc., etc. But as he gradually eases himself into the pattern of play, we can see what all the fuss is about. I mean, which player is worth £100 million? Almost none of them, really. But we can see that the way in which he's being used by Guardiola is not so much as an impact sub or a difference maker in a clutch game needing a goal. He is being played very much more in an attacking wide role, almost to wear the opposition down, to keep on knocking on the door, being an absolute pest. In many ways, not dissimilar to some of your wide players. You know, the way that you just keep on going and keep on going and keep it. You don't necessarily one shot, one goal, but you just keep on knocking on the door. And it's clear that Pep doesn't see him bench player predominantly. You wouldn't be surprised, wouldn't you? Why would you spend £100 million on a player you're going to sit on the bench? But particularly in the absence of Gundogan, Grealish, together with a few other favourites, including Cancelo, who I've mentioned, and also Bernardo Silva, the sort of relentless possession that we're developing, I think he's just starting to get to a point where he appreciates that some of the time it's okay to lose possession, but most of the time Pep wants you to hang on to the ball. So I think he's learning to pick his moments. He's an effective weapon, but he hasn't just quite broken through yet. I don't think Anfield will be his moment, but who knows? But I think he will start to really pick up speed, probably as we get towards Christmas. But he's looking good and looking safe possession. That's the key.
Everyone watching this, smash that like, subscribe button. We appreciate it. So I was just looking at Liverpool versus City's history, and between the two clubs, obviously, like out the last 6 games, really, City won the last 3. You know, you beat us last year 4-1. But I think the last time Liverpool won was when we won the title in the 3-1 win at Anfield. So a recent record isn't that great against City, actually. Does that put confidence in you that, obviously that there was a big thing, I think, before you won at Anfield last year where you hadn't won at Anfield in a long time and you actually broke the duck. So does that make you feel confident? Hey, we can come here. We won there last year. We can come here and win again.
Yes, well, I'm glad we've run over those victories in the last 6 games. It would have been one more if Riyad Mahrez hadn't turned into Bruno Fernandes at the last gasp on that infamous occasion. That ball's still in orbit with Fernandes's. But am I confident going into a fixture against Liverpool at Anfield? The answer is a resounding no. You're never confident going to play at Anfield, not with Cities. I mean, thank you so much for highlighting just a little tiny positive statistic. But no, only one of those wins came at Anfield after a long, tedious sequence of poor results at Anfield. I am not kidding myself, and I don't think most City fans are kidding themselves, that we've suddenly turned a corner against Liverpool, and from this point on, we're just going to turn up, score 4 goals and go home with the points tucked under our arm. It will always be a tough game. It will be a tough game on Sunday. And I would say that the City fans of my generation, as you can see, I am prematurely grey, Holmes. But for City fans of my generation, you absolutely never go to Anfield expecting anything at all. Frankly, without wishing to be offensive to the good people of Liverpool, you never even go to Anfield expecting to see the wheels still on your car by the time the final whistle has blown. So let alone the points in the football match.
Good. There's no need for that, man. That's a hurtful stereotype. There's no need for that.
No, I take it all back, Tina.
Okay, so how do you think City are going to approach this game? And do you feel this is the game that City need to win after beating Chelsea, back it up with another win, statement win?
Okay.
Or do you feel like
super question? Super lose. Yeah. Okay, I'm probably going to do my usual thing of dealing with the final question first and then come back to the first question. For sure, City don't need to win this game. I mean, it would be the lovely icing on a quite tasty cake of this week's performances, if not results. But certainly the result in the league against Chelsea is very encouraging. Probably our best performance, definitely our best performance this season, arguably our best performance in some months, going back to maybe the latter stages of our Champions League campaign. No, of course we don't need to win. That would be silly. And the idea of going to Anfield needing to win, it just sounds greedy to me. And so from that point of view, no, it's not one of these kind of must-win games, despite Tino's confidence that whoever wins this game will inevitably go on and win the league. I think I'm slightly paraphrasing that. How will City set up? What will City's approach be? Well, it's Pep Guardiola, so frankly, you could just toss a coin or throw a dice or put a ball in a roulette wheel and you could get any one of about 35 different approaches. But there is a degree of consistency in Guardiola's approach this season, following on from last season. We are starting to see, shock of shocks, Guardiola picking an unchanged side from time to time. And so we were all expecting a mad rotation for PSG, and we didn't get it. 2 changes, very conservative, but mainly the Chelsea team. And so I anticipate, not in terms of personnel so much, but in terms of approach, that the way that we will approach you on Sunday will be not conservative, not playing for keeping things tight. I think that you will get what Chelsea got, which is essentially a mad press, an absolute mad press, which Chelsea obviously struggled. We strangled Chelsea in their own half, and they just sort of never got out. No shots on target, so on and so forth. It's a high-risk strategy, of course, but Guardiola always adopts, or mostly adopts, a high-risk strategy. So I would expect that he will try to repeat the Chelsea treatment and press you high. I would think that the nuance of that is probably going to be to try to ensure that we have as strong a left side as possible. I've talked already about Cancelo and Grealish developing a fine partnership, not necessarily just playing to each other, but playing off each other and playing other people in other areas of the pitch. And so I would imagine that if, for example, there is a perceived weakness in your right-back position, I don't know why anybody might think that, but if there is on Sunday a weakness in your right-back position, I think you can imagine that when you see the heat map of City's attacking play, it will concentrate mainly on the left. Obviously, we've options on the right as well. We've got Jesus, we've got Mahrez, etc., etc. We may even have Sterling. But fundamentally, I think that we press you high, win the ball high, and then when we're in possession of the ball, I would expect to see most of the play funneling down the left side.
So I know you said Pep's gone with an unchanged kind of lineup, but what's your lineup information for this game?
I would anticipate, with the team that played against Chelsea, you're probably fairly familiar with the back four. So obviously Ederson in goal, Walker right back, Cancelo is currently playing left back. He's making the role his own now. So that, it seems to me, is fairly well established. I don't think there's any reason to change the centre-back partnership, though. Diaz and Laporte. Again, Rodri is playing some of his best football at the moment, so I don't anticipate that he'll rotate Rodri for Fernandinho. I think Fernandinho will remain on the bench as an option for later in the game if needed. Then the 2 central midfielders will be De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva. And then the only real unpredictability is which front 3 Guardiola goes with. If he sticks with the Chelsea side, that will be Jesus as a right winger, Foden as a false 9 with Grealish on the left flank. Of course, that could rotate a little in the sense that I think the lineup against PSG had Mahrez on the right instead of Jesus. Jesus was on the bench and Foden was on the bench and we had Sterling instead. But essentially, there'll be some combination of that front 3. But I would guess that because they had a little rest in midweek, you'll probably get Foden and Jesus back to start. Because why? I mean, Guardiola has never believed in why change a winning team, but I think he's starting to think that as things currently stand, he doesn't have Gundogan as an option in midfield. Bernardo Silva is playing out of his skin at the moment. He's like a player reborn after a couple of disappointing seasons. So I think that he will probably play essentially the Chelsea side as well as the Chelsea style.
And who's your player to watch on this Sunday for Sunday for the Man City side?
Am I allowed to say two?
No, just the one. Who's the main player to watch that's going to win you the game Sunday?
Okay, well, it's one player to watch. His name is Bernardo Jesus. It's tricky. In terms of real game running skills, and I say this on the back of one of the world's most shocking open goal misses on Tuesday night. Bernardo Silva, then, if you absolutely pin me down to one, he is currently running the game for City, particularly these tight games, these big games, where the name of the game from City's point of view is run, press, get the ball, keep the ball, and keep running at the opposition and almost wear them down with possession and pressing. Bernardo Silva, his running statistics are absolutely off the charts at the moment. I don't honestly know how the guy does it, but if you're going to watch a player that will give you, sort of value for money in terms of watching him, watch Bernardo Silva, because the man is like a Duracell bunny, absolutely ridiculous. So he's my one to watch. He's got to redeem himself for that massive open goal. I hope he doesn't do some sort of tearful apology to the world for missing an open goal on Tuesday. I think we're all a bit over that by now, aren't we? Play football, do your best. Sometimes it goes in the back of the net, sometimes it doesn't. Hey, nobody was murdered. It was just a game of football. He hit the bar. Let's all get over it. But Bernardo Silva was my one to watch.
That was so pathetic, that Bruno Fernandes apology. You're like, what are you doing? It's a football match. Get over it. You missed the penalty. You'll get another penalty and you'll probably score it. Just get on with the game. Like, forget apologise. And the United fans are acting like he just lost his dog. And you sat there like, what are you doing?
I know.
He's not just lost a family member or like your favourite pet. He's missed the penalty. He's missed the penalty. Honestly, I was sat there just crying with laughter.
Yeah. In fairness, I can think of just one example, and I'll leave it there. If you recall that crazy, stupid game against Chelsea in the league at the back end of last season, approaching the Champions League final, we rested a few players, etc. We scored an early goal. We got a penalty just before half time, and dear Sergio Aguero decided to do a really that isolation. I was, as he found, perfectly prepared to accept Sergio sort of apologising for that. Absolutely, it wasn't that he missed the penalty; it was how he missed the penalty. I think Sergio was within his rights to say, "I'm sorry," because that was a terrible, bad. What was it? An arrogant miss almost. But no, generally speaking, play the game, try and score the goal. Everybody's trying to score. Get on with your life.
So moving on to Liverpool's side, we'll come back to you towards the end, Tim. So Liverpool go into this game on the back of a big 5-0 win versus Porto. We love to play at Porto at the Dragada Stadium. So confidence, players should be sky high going to this game, Tino.
Oh yeah, definitely. I was listening to the Red Men, I think this morning, and I saw a stat that I think 14% of Liverpool's Champions League goals under Klopp had been scored against Porto, which is just bizarre. Going into this game, we couldn't have asked for a better game. If I had to pick anybody to play in the Champions League before probably our biggest game of the season, bar Manchester United, I'd have picked Porto. Just such we made it look easy. It was an incredible victory. And it really sets us up for the Champions League. And going into this game, it's just what we needed after dropping points against Brentford. It's gutted about that, but going into this game, we couldn't have asked for a better performance.
Liverpool had a very good, like Man City. Liverpool had a very good start to the season. Except for the Brentford draw, which did fill up with the feet. We're still top of the table, undefeated. How impressive you've been on my start, especially with all the fury that was in the summer window, that Liverpool didn't buy anyone like other clubs did. That Liverpool, a lot of the media wrote us off, said that Liverpool were going to finish 4th, 5th, that they're not going to change nothing. And, Liverpool, where they are. So how impressed have you been by starting the season?
I'm very impressed. You couldn't have asked for, you could have if we'd have beaten Chelsea and beaten Brentford. But I think overall it's been a very good, confident start. As you say, undefeated. We're on, I think, an 18-match unbeaten run at the moment. Salah's just on fire as he usually is. 8 goals in 8 games, in the league. The only 8 goals in 8 games in all competitions, I think. The only team he's failed to score against is Burnley, which is, I think, writing us off, saying that we're going to finish like 4th or 5th in the media is a lot down to social media as a whole and the press. You look at this Liverpool squad and look at what they achieved last season, given the amount of injuries we had, especially in the defensive side of things, where we had 20 odd defensive partnerships, centre back partnerships in the entire season, which is unheard of. We get written off a lot, which I don't quite understand why. Because you look at the consistency that we've had, with obviously the exception of last season, to a certain extent, in terms of the front three. Look at the consistency they've had in terms of scoring goals and performing. You think, why would you write this Liverpool side off, even if we don't sign anybody? Going into this game, a phenomenal start to the season. I don't think we could have asked for really anything better, to be honest.
So, obviously, first part of it, like Liverpool have a recent poor record against City. Does that concern you going to this game?
Not really, because I think to avoid, I guess I try and avoid using the cliche. I'm not going to avoid using the cliche. When you get to a big game like this, form just honestly does, to a certain extent, go out the window. You talk about huge derbies, and albeit this isn't a derby per se, form certainly it is somewhat irrelevant because of how good these two sides are. You look at obviously Manchester City coming on the back of a loss against PSG. They won't even be thinking about this. The players won't be thinking about this. They'll just be head on straight into this game, looking forward to it, and really up for and down for getting stuck in. The 4-1 defeat last year as well, again, doesn't concern me. As Tim mentioned, going to Anfield is a very difficult place. With or without fans, it's a very, very difficult place to go to. And going as a side, I think Manchester City probably need this win more than we do at this moment in time. I think Liverpool are the favourites going into this as well, arguably. So it doesn't concern me. I'm not too bothered about our past losses and defeats, but because it's just like genuinely anything could happen.
Also, obviously, when you look at the 4-1 defeat last year, Liverpool had Henderson and Fabinho at centre back. We all know how Liverpool are when they have Henderson and Fabinho in midfield, and obviously, how big is it going to have, having known that you're going to have Van Dijk and Matip at centre backs, and also in reserve you've got Konate, Gomez, if you need. So, how big is that feeling knowing that you're going to have those two? Because especially against a City side that's been very strong this season, and you need the best players. So Liverpool, a complete different kettle of fish to the team City beat than with those players in the right positions.
Yeah, I think it just gives the fans a lot more confidence. It gives certainly the players a lot more confidence just to have Virgil van Dijk back and have that consistency in the centre back the partnership. You look at how truly influential Van Dijk has been in this Liverpool team. You go back to the early time when Klopp first came in, before that under Brendan Rodgers, you look at how good our attack was, but we were still very, very shoddy defensively. It was almost like it was almost like we just went straight attacking and just thought we'll screw our defense, we'll just outscore the other team, which is like never a good decision to try and go for tactically in a game. It certainly does offer us a lot of stability, offers us a lot of confidence going into the game, and obviously, as you said, to have Fabinho and Henderson as well back in the midfield, working hard. They are so vital to the way we play and the work they do off the ball when our fullbacks are bombing up, making sure we've got adequate cover in those fullback positions. I think it's understated how important they are in our midfield.
I just wanted to, if I could be allowed, just to add my voice. Apologies for interrupting you, Tino.
No, go ahead.
I just want to add my voice to this general praise of Virgil van Dijk and what a great difference he's made to Liverpool now that he's back after his injury. Purring away like the Rolls Royce he undoubtedly is. I was particularly struck by how magisterial he was and commanding he was, standing, staring, well, not glaring at his teammates each and every time the newly promoted Brentford put another goal in Liverpool's net last week. It was tremendous in that goal. I think it really suits him.
Yeah. Like you look at how he's already one of the leaders in the team. You look at the captains in the team, and he's obviously not been here long. He's a presence. He's not just physically, but verbally as well. You hear him and Henderson absolutely shouting every single game at every single player for 90 plus minutes. Having that confidence as someone like maybe Matip or Gomez when they play as the fullbacks to go forward as a defensive midfield in Fabinho and Henderson, to know that they can either push forward or they know that Virgil's always got their back. Must be an incredible thing. He's superb. Going into this game, and whoever wins, the comparison is going straight to be Virgil and Diaz. Diaz. Yeah. Yes, Diaz. Jeez, I forgot his name then. Instantly the comparison is going to be those two. Whoever wins, all throughout social media. I don't think it's that simple, but that's certainly what's going to happen.
Yeah. So going into the game, how did Liverpool approach this to beat City and get a win?
Do exactly what we did against Porto. I mean, we were stupendously good. It was ridiculously impressive how attacking wise and defensive. You've got Curtis Jones was on fire, both going forwards and having to graft. I don't think we changed much going into this. Jurgen doesn't really like to alter his teams a whole load going into games if he doesn't have to. The only concern for me going into this game, obviously, is Milner at right back. Trent's out until at least at the end of the international break after this, which is a really, really concerning thing. Obviously, Tim mentioned it. Insinuated it when he talked earlier. That is the one area that I'm looking at and thinking I'm really, truly concerned going into this game. Milner is a good option. He's a great player. I think it's understated at how impressive it is as a 35-year-old, having had a 15, 16-year career, to still be performing at such a high and consistent level in the Premier League, challenging for trophies in the Champions League. But to go up against Grealish and all the ridiculously impressive backups that Manchester City have got, it is a concern. That's my only concern going into this game. I think tactically, you look at Liverpool, we try and hold possession, we try and press on the front foot. You look, it's quite similar to a certain extent, to the way Manchester City play. We try and sort of close up and play such a high line, which at times can be quite dangerous, especially against the side of Manchester City's quality. Playing such a high line that, like we do, could potentially be our downfall. We saw it last season, even when we were terrible against, I think it was Aston Villa. Our high line, we just kept on pushing, but there was no intensity in our midfield, which completely screwed us because one ball over the top and we were done for. The high line concerns me, especially if there's the lack of intensity in midfield, and the right back position does concern me. But I do still think Liverpool are favourites going into this game.
So it's interesting you say that, because obviously when you look at Liverpool this season so far, like it's been down the right hand side we've had troubles. Even when Trent was there, it's been on that right hand side where we've had issues, because there's obviously the problem with how he plays that Salah isn't asked to track back much. On occasion, I know he did against Palace where he tracked back into the ball of Saha, but majority of the time Salah's not told to come back. So it puts a lot of onus on Henderson to do the covering there. And obviously, as good as Henderson is, he's not like he was when he was like 2 years back. He's had injuries, his injuries issues. So down that side, it is a cause of concern in terms of like making sure Henderson does offer the protection to Milner, making sure that Matip, which he didn't do that well against Brentford, is getting over to cover the right back. So that is, I do see your point there. That is a concern there.
Yeah, I do think the only saving grace with regards to this, I don't think Milner is as attacking as Trent is, which I think positionally wise, I think will be better off to a certain extent. But then again, that just limits us going forward, and the quality that Trent provides. He's one of our most creative players going into this into this game. You look at the drop off in terms of quality for the right back position in comparison to the left back position. I don't think there's a huge drop off when it comes to Kostas and Robbo. Kostas has done brilliantly when he's played this season. I think arguably his crossing is probably better than Robbo's. But you look at Trent and the drop off to Milner, to Joe Gomez if he plays there, to Neco Williams, who probably won't play given he's only just come back from injury. It is quite a significant drop off, and something that I think we do need to try and solve and come up with a better solution transfer wise, because I don't think, as much as I love Neco Williams and he's a good young player, and I really do want him to succeed at Liverpool, the gap for me is just too big in terms of quality for him to come in. Same with Milner, for him to come in and perform to the same standard that Trent does week in, week out, usually. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, I totally agree there with that. We have to hope because Milner's done good against Diaz. He did well against Lucas Diaz, who's Porto's best player. Did well against Zaha, so we have to hope he does the same this Sunday. So what's your, obviously going into this game, like obviously we know Liverpool's injuries. There's no Thiago, who's a massive miss for this game. There's no Trent. So, obviously Bobby's just come back. He got 2 goals against Porto off the bench. Mm-hmm. Does that change it for you? What's your, in terms of your formation? Keita's back. So, does that change it? What's your formation lineup?
The only player I think potentially pushes this starting lineup that are currently fit would be Naby Keita for Curtis Jones. It's been, the Norwich game, then playing the Porto game as well. I do think he sits out of this, despite how impressive he was against Porto. I do think he sits out of this game and Naby Keita comes in if Naby Keita is fully 100% fit. Obviously, Trent is a huge miss. Thiago is a huge miss. Both players start without a shadow of a doubt, without question, start this game if they're fit. There's no denying that they're our 2 best players for me in those positions. And and nobody can offer the quality in passing and creativity that those two players offer Liverpool Football Club. In terms of Diego, I think Jota starts. I don't think he changed. I honestly, barring Keita, if he's fit, I don't think he changes anything. I think you've got Ali in goal is a dead set. Virgil and Matip at the centre-back positions. Again, another dead set. I think that's why he really switched his defence up at Brentford just so Matip could play two on the bounce, because we know how bad his injury and fitness issues are. Robbo plays without a doubt. Milner at right back, as we've talked about, is my only concern. And then Hendo, Fabinho, Keita if he's fit. If not, it'd probably be Curtis. And then the front three pick themselves. Even though Bobby scored 2, I don't expect him to come. I don't think for me that wasn't enough. I know that sounds a bit like greedy to a certain extent. That guy's come on in the second half, scored 2 goals, and I don't think that's enough for him to play. I think Jota offers us at the moment something a bit more fluid in terms of attacking wise. I do think to a certain extent Bobby does slow us down, but then his defensive side of the game, his work rate, getting back what he's known for, is obviously something that's going to be missed. But I do think the only change would potentially be in midfield should Naby Keita be 100% fit.
And who's your player to watch that's going to win Liverpool this game this Sunday?
I'm going to veto Mohamed Salah just because he's Mohamed Salah. You can't. How can I pick anybody else? To be honest with you, given how well he's played so far this season, I honestly think Diogo Jota is the player to look out for. He had a fair few chances against Porto, and couldn't really put it away. But he was very creative and very impressive going forward, and always getting in the right places and spaces in the box. So I do think he's the one to watch out for, just because I'm vetoing Salah, because everybody picks Salah.
All right, so we're going to go on to key battles. I want both of you to pick one key battle area that's going to decide this game. We'll start with you, Tim. What's the one key area of battle going to decide this game on Sunday?
In accordance with my previous policy of trying to shoehorn 2 in when I'm asked to pick 1, you already know we already had a bit of a discussion about Grealish / Cancelo against whoever's playing right back, presumably James Milner. So I'm actually going to skip that one because it's so obvious. And instead I'm going to focus on a different one, which is probably more of a City potential vulnerability. But of course, you know the way Guardiola looks at these things, he tries to turn a vulnerability into an advantage. So the matchup on our left side, your right, between Salah and Cancelo, I think could have a very big impact upon the outcome of the game. Clearly, from the City point of view, the key is for Cancelo to be so threatening in possession, City to have sufficient possession, that it means that Salah has to be pinned back and worry about what Cancelo is doing. But we all know that the Liverpool point of view will be to get Salah either in behind Cancelo or at any rate running at Cancelo and hopefully exploit. Shall we say the fact that in the balance between attacking and defence, Cancelo is rather more of an attacking-minded player than necessarily a defender first and foremost. So I'd say that's a key battle there, depending upon who gets to see more of the ball.
What about you, Tino?
That's pretty apt. I think that's. I don't think I could have put it better myself. The only other position, really, I think that is going to be key to this game is defensive midfielders for both. You look at what Fernandinho's done previously and what Rodri do, and Fabinho as well does so well, is just break up the play, especially when the opposition are on the counter. Those little fouls where it's like you sat there like he does about 4 or 5, and you sat there like, how has he not got a yellow card yet? He's probably fouled half the team. That is such a key for both us and Manchester City, because if an early yellow card for either of the two DMs, and then you're looking at some two defensive midfielders who are going to possibly play a bit more conservatively in terms of making those little niggly little fouls to try and break up counter-attacks and break up the play and slow things down, especially if one team are on top and dominating. So other than the obvious right back, as we've mentioned, defensive midfielder for me.
Interesting. Okay, I think my one is going to be I think it's going to be Foden versus Van Dijk. Because I think in that, when we played you last year, I think Foden had a great game, and then when we beat us the year before, Foden had another great game then, and I think stopping him. I know stopping him, not allowing him to dribble with the ball or make any good passes would go a long way. If we can keep him quiet, I think he's the kind of like the one that after KDB, I think he's the one that kicks you on, Foden. So that's what I'll go for. So
Foden is scarily good though. Like, we talk about generational talents a lot in sport in general, and you've got you talk about like Messi and Ronaldo, these elite players. Foden is one of those generational talents. I think Trent is also one of those, because I do think to a certain extent that word gets batted about a lot, and you talk about players who are truly have world class potential. I think Foden is one of those. I would absolutely adore. I would love him to play for Liverpool Football Club. He's the one player above anybody else that I think I would hands off, just absolutely snap instantly to get at Liverpool Football Club. Never going to happen, obviously. He's a Manchester City lad through and through.
Thank you for that, Tino. I wonder if I can just come in and burnish the reputation of Phil Foden just that little bit more. He and I have one thing in common, which is that we were both born in the glorious, shimmering town of Stockport. So his skills on the ball, to some extent, maybe going back a generation or so, his impact or potential impact, because he still hasn't been fully unleashed. He's not a 40-season player yet, and he has been looked after most carefully in that respect, so that he isn't, ruined at too early an age, etc., But he's a regular for England now. He should be a regular for City, probably a little bit more than he already is. But it reminds me the sheer impact, those moments, and I know I've spoken on this channel before, Holmes, about those moments that we all like to see in games, whether it's a defender doing an absolutely brilliantly timed tackle, or whether it's just a piece of skill. It doesn't necessarily need to lead to a goal, but it might do. But just a piece of skill which, in front of a packed ground, the crowd just groan with pleasure or have an intake of breath or roar with delight. Phil Foden is your man for those, pulling it out of the sky, control on an absolute sixpence. It's wonderful to watch. And I'm almost salivating. It is mouthwatering, thinking that we might get to see Phil have another good game against Liverpool. Who knows? With who knows, lovely results. It reminds me of the impact, but actually I think it's better that Gaza had when he burst upon the scene all those years ago. People saw Gaza dribbling with the ball, putting brilliant touches on the ball, tricks, scoring goals, creating goals, and he kind of sort of embodied a certain generation and he made players around him look a bit like cart horses. Well, to some extent, I think Phil Foden, forgive me, Gaza, Phil Foden almost makes Paul Gascoigne in his comp look a little bit cart horsey, because Phil's just that little bit amazing. I could go on all night about Foden.
I'll take that. Hot take. That's a hot
take. Wow. Don't get me wrong. I think he has the potential to eclipse Gaza without a shadow of a doubt. Gaza, the type of players that we don't really see often if you're looking at it from an England perspective. I do think that skill, that flair, that drive. You don't see that from an England perspective. And albeit I couldn't care less about England, but you'd never see that, which is I think why fans are so driven towards him. Because you just know he could be having a stinker of a game for 89 minutes, and then he'll just pick the ball up, pick it out the sky, and he'll just change the game. And you just, as an opposition fan, when you see something like that, you've just got to sit back and say, fair play. I can't complain about that. Hopefully he doesn't do it against us. I'm not going to lie. I'm hoping he has an absolute stinker of a game against Liverpool. But
the take-home message from all of this, take-home message from all of this, Tino and Holmes, is of course Pep. I'm going to talk right into the camera now. Pep, I know you watching. He's one of your big fans, Holmes. I know. Pep, pick Phil. Pick Phil. There you are. Heard it here first. Pick Phil.
Yeah.
So going to predictions.
Yeah.
We'll start with you, Tim. What's your prediction for the Sunday?
Okay. Listen, on the one hand, I'd love to be full of bravado and come out with a prediction which will send you all to a sleepless nights between now and Sunday. On the other hand, I'm obviously wishing to maintain my credibility as a football pundit in this surprising development at this stage in my talking career. So on the one hand, there's a part of me that would like to right the wrong of the 4-1. Wasn't it really 5-1, but that goal was unfairly disallowed right at the very end. So I'd like to predict 5-1, but I'm not going to predict 5-1 because I think that the more likely outcome is a cagey 1-1, where at one point or another in the game, each team think they've got it, and then it's snatched away from them. And everybody, after about 75 minutes, just settles for the draw, and we move on and fight other battles. I think 1-1.
Yeah,
you know
that's what I'm worried about. You see such huge games, like the biggest games of in arguably world football in the Premier League, and you sat there like it's a 0-0, it's a 1-1. It's like I want to be entertained. I want to watch this. I want, as much as it'll probably give me a heart attack, I want to watch this, and I want to see at least 6-6. It's not good. Well, 6-5 to Liverpool, but as a fan of football, that's what I want to see. We never get that. With this game in particular, I'm thinking, I do think it's going to be tight. I do think it's going to be, I think it's going to be one of those cagey games. I hope it isn't. I'm probably maybe just a 2-1 lead, 2-1 win to Liverpool very late on.
Yeah, that's what I was going for too. I thought of a 2-2 draw, but then I thought 2-1. I think I think Liverpool needs to win this. Just to go clear the top of the table. And plus, I think you have to win your home games when you're trying for the league title. You can't be. Yeah. You dropped points to Chelsea, can't be dropping points again for me. So at home, so that's what I'm going for. But it's going to be a cagey game. I agree with both of you. It's going to be one of those tight games where moment brilliance. So who takes the chance of the day? It's going to come down to. I think there will be controversy because there always is. There'll be some kind of dodgy penalty or dodgy foul or free kick, whatever it is. There always is. Something.
There's bound to be. It's that type of game.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. So we'll leave it there. Appreciate everyone who's watching this. Do smash that like and subscribe button. It's been great having both of you on. Everyone, if you're watching, do go follow Tim and Tino. You find them on Twitter and other social media channels. Do go give them a watch and follow as well. Otherwise, Tim, wish you good luck for the rest of the season. Just not on Sunday.
Thank you very much, Holmes.
And Tino, hopefully we win on Sunday. So then we can send him some Smug comments.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Well,
Otherwise,
as
everyone-
long as
Yeah.
as long as this is evenly balanced, and if the smugness can be reciprocated, Holmes.
Of course. Of course. I'd expect nothing less.
Yeah.
And of course, we can't ignore that there'll be a return fixture as well. So let's just wait until all the games have been played. Hey,
We'll see.
Yes.
We'll see you back at the return fixture.
100%. 100%.
absolutely,
You know,
brilliant.
that's
Nice to
that's the
speak to
point
you
of
all.
banter. Yeah. So everyone, have a great evening, and we'll see you all. I'll be back on Sunday for live watch along with the Man City game, and there'll be a post match afterwards. So look out for those. Otherwise, everyone have a great evening. Lads, have a great evening, and
Great
we'll
stuff.
catch you up soon.
Thanks, Hose.